This is a follow-up video to the video I made over a year ago called "Do Black American United States Mothers Hate Their Sons?" I will put a link to that video at the end. After I made that video, I heard from men worldwide. Many in different countries have experienced hateful mothers. Remember, I translate my videos into other languages. I decided to make this video because I know when someone hears another person's story, it can help. It makes you feel like you're not wrong in feeling the way you do. There is nothing wrong with you. Plus, knowing the results of what someone else did can help you figure out what you can do in your situation. This is my story. I'm not going to get into a lot of the details. I'm only going to try to keep to what is important. These are images of my time in Phuket, Thailand. I think it's better than looking at some old 60-year-old man. I hated my mother a lot, but I kept this to myself. The reason why is we all know that no one cares about a man's feelings and what we go through in life. This is one of the reasons why respect is so important to men. So if no one cares, why talk about it? Why tell anyone? No one wants to hear it. About 3 months ago, my mother got lung cancer. There was nothing the doctors could do. A few of the women in my family kept asking me to call her, and I refused. My aunt kept saying that this was the last time she would bring it up, but she kept bringing it up. Then another one, my brother's first wife, Dawn, tried some dumb manipulation bullshit. She talked about forgiveness and some other dumb shit. People who do shit always want unconditional forgiveness. People who experience another person's shit wants protection. No more hurt, no more pain. There are different types and levels of forgiveness. In some situations, forgiveness has to be earned. Plus, in other situations, some things can never be forgiven. But for all these types and levels of forgiveness, forgiveness only means that we'll not try to get revenge, retribution, or restitution. Forgiveness does not mean I have to have you in my life in any way. I do not have to live with any reminders of what you did. It means I have the choice of not having to watch my back, wondering what other shit you may do in the future. Now back to my story. So Dawn, kept pushing before I left, demanding, not asking, but demanding I tell her why. I told her no. I could see that she did not like that answer, so I cleaned it up. I told her I will when I am ready, and not until then. Just let me leave in peace. She did not like that answer, but before we could get into a screaming match, I walked out of the house. About 3 days later, I left in peace and thought that was the end of it. In April, I got to Vietnam, and I talked to my aunt almost every other day. And once a week, she would ask me to call my mother. I never responded to this request, and I never called. Dawn, on the other hand, got her son to do some of her dirty work. I spent about 2 months in Vietnam, and now I'm in Thailand. Right before I left for Thailand, I talked to my aunt, and she said that my mother only had a few days to a few hours left to live. She said that she was going to bring her phone to the hospital so I could talk to her. This pissed me off. I got angry. Men want respect. And for almost 2 months, I kept telling you no. Instead of dropping it, we decided to try some manipulation bullshit, with the result of benefiting no one. My mother was so far gone that she could not tell who was calling her, and could not respond if she did know. So what was the point? Who was this for? Plus, she kept disrespecting me by not respecting my wish for not talking to her. Remember, men need respect. I said to her over the phone, I cannot handle this, and hung up. I have not talked to her since. Then, a few days later, Dawn tried some of her manipulation shit. I texted her back and told her that if a child refuses to talk to their dying parent, there is a good reason why. My mother did some horrible stuff, and I cannot deal with any of this shit. Dawn texted me back and said she understood, and some other stuff. Then a few hours later, she sent me a picture of my dying mother in the hospital. So what Dawn was saying is that my feelings does not matter. What I'm going through does not matter. What I can and cannot deal with does not matter. Plus, Plus, for the past 2 months, I said no to Don. Plus, all manipulation tactics are just telling the other person, I think you are stupid. Thus, I do not have any respect for you at all. I did not get angry. I went off the deep end, way into the deep end. I texted Don back a few hours later and said, I've been respectful. Now, fuck that. When the bitch dies, the world will be a better place because of it. Now, have some fucking respect for my feelings. When I look back now, I think that this was funny. She never thought I would respond this way. You should not try and manipulate a grown man and not a 60-year-old man that does not have to take your shit. You can imagine how she took it. Her manipulation bullshit did not work, and it triggered a response she never figured. She sent my text to all the women in my family. Then the next day, my aunt tried to call, but I refused to answer the phone. Then a few hours later, my brother's other ex-wife called and told me my mother died. I talked to a few women in my family and they were upset at what I said. I told them to blame Don. She sent the text to all of you without thinking about how this would affect you, or considering your feelings. She's the one who disrespected your feelings, not me. I kept quiet. I never said anything to anyone about how I felt. I showed respect for your feelings. But since everyone now knows that my mother has a son who hated her, and hated her a lot, people at her funeral are going to ask if Todd really said that. Why did Todd say that? Is the reason why Todd had speech problems was because of his mother's abuse? They could have said that Todd could not return for the funeral because he was in Thailand. Thus, it was Don's dumb, stupid game that tarnished my mother's memory, destroyed her legacy. You should not play childish games with adult men. I did not know what Don was trying to accomplish. I think Don was having an emotional reaction instead of making a logical decision. I know that since my mother is gone, many women in family wants the title of being the new matriarch. I think this title is going to go to my cousin Crystal. The matriarch before my mother, her son also hated her. And before he died, he also told her and me and no one else that he hated her. I am happy and glad it all came out. I always wanted people to know. Maybe what Don was trying to do was what my mother tried to do. Tell me to fall in line or get cut off from the family. This shows that women know nothing about men. Men do not need the approval of anyone. We do not need a community. We can go into the forest alone and live by ourselves until we die. This is why men have always been the explorers of the world and not women. Men need respect. Without respect, we do not want you around. I do not know why women think that whatever they do is okay. So after all of this, I did what many women do. I got my hair cut.